I'd rather be a lover than a fighter. Cause all my life I've been fighting. Never felt a feeling of comfort. All this time I've been hiding. And I never had someone to call.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Porters, and I'm joined by sweet Shanza Kovacs from the internet.
I'm not immortal, I'm nigh immortal.
And of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I'm going to keep living until I don't.
Hey, I think that's all we can ask of anybody. Hey, you keep living till you don't, okay? Keep that in your pocket. You don't see a lot of motorcycle games with that.
That should be on a T-shirt. That should be on a T-shirt. Keep living till you don't.
Hey, we haven't had some merch in a long time. I'm going to make that merch up, and by Tuesday, it's going to be on sale. Just go to heromoviepodcast.com, click on the top button over there, and hit shop. It's going to go over, and you can get yourself that shirt. I'm doing it now.
And I do just want to take this opportunity to tell 50 Cent it's a whole lot easier to die trying than to get rich.
Hey, I'll just die trying, okay? Straight to the top. Well, boys and girls, we are back here yet again with another superhero type movie. And this week we're covering The Old Guard, which just came out Friday on Netflix. It's a new movie. And we're like, oh my gosh, a new movie. How long has it been since we've covered some new stuff? What a joy. So, like, you know, even if we even said it before the movie was out, like, you know, that previous Sunday, we were like, even if it sucks, it's new. It's something that's new and exciting and that people will be interested in, and chances are probably will have already seen because it's been trending #1 on Netflix. I like also how they're telling us what is actually trending over there now. So it's just like, hey, this is the hot stuff. Check it out. So way
trendier than Ichi the Killer, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, you know, not all audience members want to get their eyes on that one, I'll tell you. I didn't look at the downloads. I don't know what they were for that, but I don't know. But we're on the big time Netflix today, man. So we're covering The Old Guard. But before we do all that, we've got a lot of fun stuff here for you. First and foremost, let's open up the old HMP mailbag. Do I have that button? Oh, it's been so long.
Bale's here.
And this isn't exactly an email, but a voicemail that came over email. That's how you do it. You record your voice and send it to us, and it makes so Adam doesn't have to read and be a fumbly dum-dum. So I appreciate anybody who does that. Indeed, we do. This email or voicemail here is from Krista. Let's check it out.
Dear Adam, Bruce, and Sean, I wanted to take a minute to thank you three. This pandemic isn't easy on anyone, and your extra work in providing us patrons the extra episodes has been a bright spot each week. Sean, I know you're not thrilled to watch all the Fast and Furious movies, but your suffering brings value for value. Take care and stay safe. Krista, a.k.a. The Little Impaler.
Thank you, Krista, for that lovely email. And yeah, it you know, sometimes the movies are a little bit harder to get through than others, but we do it for your fun and entertainment. And if you're not quite sure what she's talking about, over at patreon.com/HMP, you get pre-show, post-show, and of course a Dinger Zone. We've been working our way. First, we did all the Mission Impossible movies. Next, we're like almost wrapping up all of the Fast and Furious films. And then after that, we're going on to another one. I don't want to announce it just yet, but we got some more stuff coming very, very soon. And
that's how. If we can go back for a second,
Please.
That's how you know that she's smarter than we are. Mm-hmm. Is that she's like, you know what? I'm going to completely sidestep having Adam bumble over all this stuff.
Well,
I'm just going to record it, and send it to those guys.
Appreciated by absolutely everyone, Krista.
Why did they have Porky Pig right for the emails? Here's Chris's email. And if you would like to send us an email, do that at heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. Close up the mailbag.
You know what's the best version of that is DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That scene makes me laugh every single time I see it. It's so great.
Here it is.
Bale's here.
And like I said, heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. We really appreciate that. And if you can't support us over at the Patreons, you can leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, a.k.a. Humdinga.
Humdinga.
And this one is from username Baby Trim. No idea what that means, nor do I think I want to. 5 stars. It is entitled Great Show. Thank you guys for all you do. Love to listen every week. Please do a review of the next 3 episodes of Harley Quinn. Would love to hear your thoughts on King Shark. Ooh, I like the King Shark episodes. Maybe we'll maybe not right away, but I think we may get on more of that Harley Quinn in the future.
I like the show.
I like my funches and bunches, so yeah, we'll watch a bunch of them.
He's throwing Ron Funches and bunches. Going down. So yeah, man, we'll do all that, and then please leave us a review over on iTunes. We really appreciate it, and yeah, let's do all the fun stuff together. All right, let's go ahead and get into it, boys. Here is the trailer for The Old Guard.
You've got questions, kid. I get it. I need you to get back in the car, please.
This isn't real.
Glad we figured this out. Yeah, you can't die. Get up. Can you please not do that again? I have the new one.
And?
She stabbed me, so I think she has potential.
So how old are you?
We met in the Crusades.
The Crusades?
We killed each other many times. We fought thousands of battles side by side.
So we really never die.
Nothing that lives forever. One day your wounds just don't heal up anymore. We don't know when.
It is a lot to understand.
Just because we keep living doesn't mean we stop hurting.
You've seen my research. Now you know they're for real.
I need all of them, Copley.
These individuals are extremely resistant to capture.
We stop Merrick here and now, or he never stops coming after us. Everyone still with me?
Yeah.
Jill?
I'm very pissed off.
Then let's go to work.
I can't do this. I got people that love me.
Everyone around you is gonna grow old, is gonna die. You will lose everyone you've ever loved.
You're one of us now.
We walk out of here like always, together.
You okay? Yeah, I'm fine. It just hurts. Actually, everything hurts.
All right, that was the trailer for The Old Guard, a comic book, I'm told. But let's go ahead and let's do the important stuff, shall we?
It's time for Bruce's comic book connection.
Bruce, I hear tell this is a comic book.
Well, The Old Guard is a comic series written by Greg Rucka, drawn by Leandro Fernandez, and the first story arc was a 5-issue miniseries published in 2017, retroactively titled Opening Fire, with the second miniseries wrapping up quite recently titled Force Multiplied. Now, the concept has been summarized well by Vulture.com as, quote, a fairy tale of blood and bullets following immortal soldiers whose lives are defined by conflict. They discover their immortality when they are killed, or rather not killed, on a battlefield, and spend the centuries after traveling the world in one cohesive group, fighting for what they believe to be right, end quote. I also think a little background on the near immortals featured in the stories is interesting. The leader of the crew is Andromache of Scythia, born around 4700 BCE, just north of the reaches of the Assyrian Empire, part of a nomadic steppe warrior tribe. Nicolo and Yusef, the sole romantic pairing in the crew, met fighting on opposite sides of the First Crusade, enemy combatants when a Christian army lays siege to a Muslim stronghold. They discover their immortality by killing each other and continue killing each other each time they revive. They always wake up together, ultimately deciding to keep that part going without the murderous foreplay. Sébastien Lelivre was a member of Napoleon's Grande Armée and its ill-fated expedition into Russia during winter. He's left freezing and starving when the Russians torch their own fields and cities in the dead of winter, and the man who would come to be known as Booker tried to desert but was captured and hung by his own countrymen, only to discover he's immortalish. The newest member of the team is Niall Freeman, a U.S. soldier who discovers her immortality on the battlefields in Afghanistan. The character that has changed the most from the comics, though, is Noriko, the Japanese lady samurai who gets captured and dropped into the sea. In the movie, her name is changed to Quinn, and her place of origin is part of Asia we now know as Vietnam. Rucka explains the changes of the Noriko character in an interview with Polygon. Veronica No was cast as Noriko, and she said when she was cast, she said, quote, "I'm not Japanese, I'm not Vietnamese," end quote. So Rucka said, director Gina Prince Bythewood reached out to me and said, "Can we accommodate that?" And I was like, absolutely. Noriko becomes Quinn. Quinn is now Vietnamese. It was really as simple as wanting to honor that and be respectful of that. There was no other clever, nefarious, oh, maybe there will be a Noriko in the next one. Now, of course, there's no guarantee there will be a sequel to the movie. And if there is, it won't necessarily follow the plot of the comics. But in the second story arc, Noriko is the big villain. Now, as far as the man behind the story, I have met Greg Rucka a few times, and I really like this fella. He's from the San Francisco area, currently lives in Portland. He had quite a life before comics. His website claims his services are in high demand as a story doctor, which I feel like I should point out is not an actual doctor.
No MD.
And he likes to point out that his name isn't really Greg Rucka. It's actually Gregory Rucka. And nobody ever called him Greg until he published his first novel. Here's the story. His first novel, Keeper, when it was finished, it was prepared to go into production. The art department at Bantam presented Greg's editor with their mock-up of the cover. The cover was glossy black with a safety yellow strip running down its center, into which were cut the letters that form the title. Then at the base of the cover, on either side of the strip, was to be Greg's name. The problem was that Gregory had 7 letters. Rucka only had 5. With Gregory on the left and Rucka on the right, the cover was out of balance. But since Greg only has 4 letters, it could be easily spaced to balance with Rucka, hence the name change. Legend does have it that if you're ever in Portland and you're bored and it's very late and you're really bored, you can walk the streets in the wee hours and hear the sounds of Gregory sobbing over those 3 letters. Rucka also claims he once worked as a fight choreographer, but I haven't seen any credits to support this claim unless playing with G.I. Joe's counts, which it absolutely does. So I've just talked myself into a corner. So why not stop while I'm behind?
Yeah, man. So this is, when was the comic published originally again?
2017.
Okay, so this is a rather new, because I had never heard of any of this before, and that's why when this was brought up as a comic book, it was just like, because a lot of times, even if it's like smaller imprint stuff, you've probably at least heard of it in passing. This I had never even, come across, and it's not like Rucka's not a known name or anything.
Netflix is really, really going into, I don't know if you call it overdrive or not, but they're absolutely mining the world of indie comics for stuff, for series and shows. So there's still plenty that we haven't even gotten into yet that's there. But, we've covered Polar. We covered I'm Not Okay With This. We still haven't gotten to the end of the effing world. There's other stuff probably on the horizon. There's Expedition that we haven't covered yet. Extraction that we haven't covered yet. Like they're really getting a ton of creator-owned stuff there at Netflix.
Yeah, they're about to release all the Kirkman stuff too, right?
Yeah, and they've also got an agreement similar to what they have with Kirkman with Miller, however you want to pronounce it. But some of those really high-profile deals, I'm wondering, man, if they'll ever get anything out of it, because they're absolutely rushing with the lower-profile one project at a time. But it's like, when they get the creator and not the property, then it seems like they start to have a little bit of a quagmire that I don't quite understand.
Quite bizarre. Here's the IMDb plot line for you. A covert team of immortal mercenaries are suddenly exposed and now must fight to keep their identities secret, just as an unexpected new member is discovered. This, of course, is directed by Gina Pierce Blythewood and written by Greg Rucka. So that's also another thing that you don't see too awful much, is the guy, that wrote the book is also up on the screenplay and everything. So
yeah, I think that's an interesting sort of an interesting turn of events. There are some folks that are sort of accomplished screenwriters before they start writing comics, or it's sort of a parallel career. But this is like the first screenplay by Rucka.
It is? I didn't know that. I would have figured that he wrote a bunch before, but
nope.
Or at least like an episode of TV or something,
for whatever that's worth. Board certified.
Hey, man, you get some pretty good bread for that story doctor stuff. So
it's the best. It is the best. There's no like you don't have the big like tearing out your hair trying to come up with stuff. I mean, it is the best job you can have if you're a writer.
It's like just make this better. Okay, I think I could make. I mean, like, and anybody's got opinions.
I could be wrong, but I feel like it's low stress because if everybody hates it, it's the screenwriter that has to take the fall.
Your name's not on it. But then again, if it's also good, your name's not on it. It's like, geez, what do you do?
Yeah.
So this is starring Charlize Theron, Kiki Lane, Matthias. I cannot pronounce that last name. I'm so sorry.
Shonarts,
really? Okay, cool. He's one of those guys you see him a whole bunch, but you're not quite sure. Marion, it's Chiwetel Ejiofor. Why is that the most easy name for me to pronounce out of all of these?
Because he's been around for 100 years now.
That's true. He was one of those guys that we were just like, oh, we'll never get to, and then like 2 seconds later, we're like, piece of cake, we got it, and there's a reason why. Man, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about him real quick. He is good in everything he is in, even if the material is garbage. He's good because there's something about him that whatever he's in, boy, I like him in it.
I feel like he peaked in Love Actually.
We're just gonna pretend you don't exist.
He is so great as the villain in the the Cowboys in Space TV show turned into a movie.
Oh, you're talking about Firefly.
Firefly. He's so great in the Firefly movie. So good.
I had to spend a real solid minute trying to figure out who he was in Cowboys and Aliens before I realized what we were getting at.
Yeah, you got to go.
So very, very good. And that's where I first noticed him. I'm sure he's in a bunch of stuff before that, but that's the first time I knew who he was.
Bruce is more of a Sherlock Gnomes kind of guy.
Yeah, for sure.
We all know that. I knew nothing about this movie going in, and I really wanted to like it. And I don't think that I did. Please, if you love this, please convince me otherwise.
I've kind of got a thought about Netflix productions. Now, some stuff is already produced and they just buy it. Mm-hmm. Like the movie that was nominated a couple years back. What was it called? Roma or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that was already produced and they just bought it like distribution. But stuff that's actually produced by Netflix from the ground up, it feels like they have a narrow corridor that they operate in. Like it is not going to be bad. It's not going to be incompetent. Like you're going to get something solid, almost like a network TV kind of window there. But also I feel like the ceiling, it can only be so good too.
Yeah. Real quick, though, if we've got new listeners, because especially when we start to cover new release stuff, we always kind of want to remind everybody we're going to be spoiling this entire thing. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, turn away now. Come back when you're ready. You've already downloaded it, so we're still going to be there. So don't worry. But just to let you know, any kind of crazy spoilers from here on out.
So here's the thing with this movie to me is that I enjoy it. I like it. But it doesn't pass, and I came up with this term just while watching this movie. It doesn't pass the phone test, meaning that if you're watching the movie and it's not holding your attention, you've got to start doing other things. And the first thing that I do if I'm watching a movie and I'm not like fully invested in it is I reach for my cell phone or my iPad or whatever. And this movie doesn't pass that test. I still liked it, and maybe I don't know. I can't tell you of whether it's not just lack of new content, and so this was exciting for that reason, or because I legitimately like the movie. It's still too fresh to me to figure that out. What I do like about it is that they don't have the regular story beats in a story like this. There's not a whole like you don't have that thing where like, all right, well, this guy betrayed us. Now we've got to murder him, but good. They don't have that moment in this movie, which I like. I really do. And a character like Chiwetel Ejiofor's character in this movie, you don't see that turn happen very often in movies, especially movies like this. And I really enjoyed that. And we've talked about this in the past, but I listened to another podcast called The Weekly Planet, and The Weekly Planet has a really great term called "the game is afoot." and it's every time that it feels like they're trying to set up a world, and trying to make more movies off of one movie. And this movie definitely is the game is afoot movie, where the whole thing feels like we've made one movie, but we really would like to make a whole lot more movies of this. And so, and it suffers from that a bit.
I'm going to build off what you just said and circle back to Greg Rucka, a very accomplished comic book writer and a novelist, but not an experienced screenwriter. And this feels to me very much like it's paced like a comic book. And, Image Comics puts out a 5-issue miniseries it can be a proof of concept. It's much less expensive to produce and distribute a comic. And as long as it's not, as long as nobody loses their shirt, then you got a proof of concept and you can move forward, because there's so many indie comics out there that get that first miniseries that is totally game as afoot, and then it never gets followed up if it doesn't have a following. But it's kind of low cost to roll the dice on that one.
Right.
And I kind of feel like it's written like the first miniseries in a comic book, and it's because it's written by the same guy and it's more or less the same story. And the pacing, you got 22 pages at a time. You don't have, and you got 5 issues. You don't really have like the 3-act action movie structure that we've all been normalized to when something's on the screen. And this is something too, like the phone test is so much harder when you're at home on a Friday afternoon watching something than it is on a Friday night in a movie theater, because I'm not the kind of guy who starts using my phone in the movie theater, no matter how bad the movie is. So that makes me kind of pay a little more attention in the theater too.
But I'll tell you, without naming what our new Patreon show is about, when we were watching that this week, that movie totally passed my phone test. Not once did I pick up my phone.
I'm exactly the same. Did not once. This one was constant.
That movie was made for the big screen in a movie theater. That story was made for the big screen in a movie theater. Young people were involved making it, but it wasn't their first experience. Once again, I think that part of the pace of the writing and stuff may be because it's the first screenplay by Rucka.
Could be. And, it hits some of the hallmarks of a movie that I like. One of my favorite genres is secret men with well-defined rules. And that's definitely what this movie is. And that, on top of the fact that, it's sort of a mentor mentee relationship is basically the backbone of this movie. And I do enjoy that part. I think that it's deftly handled. That part of it is deftly handled. There's some stuff that is pretty clunky. I think that there's a lot of emotions in this movie, and those emotional beats don't hit very often or well. But the stuff that's good about this movie is very good. And, Charlize Theron is just, I mean, my God, so much of the heavy lifting is based on just her chemistry.
And I really like her in action roles, which we're getting.
Man, she's just so good. She's just so good. And it's kind of weird that the much younger person in this movie, the actress Kiki, I can't remember, Nile, is that the
character's Nile? Yes.
The character Nile, that actress isn't nearly as believable as damn near 50-year-old Charlize Theron running around shooting people and doing flips and stuff. It's amazing.
And it's some movies your mind will stray more than others. And in this one, I'm watching it and I'm straying in a couple of ways, and I'm like, if they wanted to make a Batwoman movie, I couldn't imagine a better Batwoman right now than Charlize Theron.
Oh, amazing casting.
Handle all the nuance of that character, handle the physical aspects. I mean, she's proven multiple times now she can handle action movies and be the lead.
Oh, she's so wonderful. And there's one of the things that I really enjoy about this movie, and I was fearful of before I turned it on, was I did not want the weird Laura Crofty sexualization of the character, and that is definitely not the case in this movie.
Nope, they decide we're going to give her the worst Justin Bieber haircut ever, and you're not going to think.
That's funny, man. 'Cause one of my notes is that this is the haircut that once every 6 months to a year, every woman I've ever had in my life is like, should I cut my hair that short? Should I cut it like that?
Ladies,
No.
by and large, the answer is no. There's only a few chicks that can pull that off really, really well. Most shouldn't have it, and I don't think Charlize should have it either.
I like it. I like it. I think it works. It works for the character, works for her.
It totally works for Charlize, but what I'm saying is that with the women that I've lived with in my life, including my daughters, it comes up maybe once a year. Should I cut my hair like that?
I'm for the Furiosa haircut. I mean, just, if you're going to do it right.
Here's the thing. She looked better that way. She looks better at the completely bald. This right in the middle nonsense, no thank you.
Oh, I like it. I thought it worked for her character, and I thought it worked for her.
Yeah, I'm cool with it. I think it's fine.
Okay.
Of course, I tend I tend to be far more critical of men's haircuts for some reason.
Why would you do that fade? You look so stupid. I found, you're right. As far as action scenes and everything, she really carries it well. I think she's somebody that when she goes in for all the fight choreography, whether it's this or Atomic Blonde, Mad Max, whatever, that she takes it seriously because she looks good while she's doing it. It looks like proper form, and
it's her doing it
exactly. So you know that's there. But over the last couple of films, not just this one, but this one, a movie that we may be talking about this week. I forget the timing of everything. Maybe it's next week for her entry into the Fast and Furious series. I don't know what the hell she's doing with her acting these days. In the last 5 years, I have really been super confused about all the performance she's giving, and I think her acting trick now is not blinking. She needs to blink more. She doesn't blink enough, and it's this real odd psychotic vibe. And it ain't like it's just one role; it's a bunch of roles.
I saw an interview with her where she's learning to blink faster than 60 FPS, so the blinks just don't show up.
That must be it, because she's constantly staring at stuff, and it's just like, your eyes need moisture, lady. Just blink them once or twice for me. So I just don't feel like I need. You got to on.
Maybe she's made of tougher stock than the rest of us.
Visine guy on the side of the set or something. I don't know what's going on.
Do you guys know anything about the director, this Gina Prince Bythewood or Bithwood?
Very much so. And
tell me more
on
about
top
her.
of that, I listened to an interview with her this week.
Because this is a movie that has the potential that it should be easy to play to a wide audience, because there's absolutely everything you need to just set up lots and lots of action scenes. And you got good performers. You got these immortal heroes that can be in any kind of fight. I think that the director made the choice not to have this pushed along by the action, to be more story driven. But as far as giving it more mass appeal, it would have been real easy to John Wick your way through this story.
Well, the Ringer interviewed her this week, and basically what she had said was that the action, because she loves action movies, even though that isn't really her forte, but the things that she likes the most is she likes action movies that have a heart to it, and that those are the ones that affect her the most. And so, she brought up like Black Panther, and I think she brought up maybe Extraction. I can't remember, but she was talking about how it's far more interesting when you really care about the characters to watch them performing action, and you want to see these people live instead of that person was disposable, who cares. And it's funny because I think that she did a fairly good job at that with the two female leads in this movie. I don't know if that's the case with anyone else. When it comes to the other three immortals or nigh immortals in this movie, I really don't have an affinity for them, but I do for the two mains, the females.
Yeah. Now, the director, her two big movies that most people would probably recognize, they may not have seen them, but you certainly know the names, are Love and Basketball and The Secret Life of Bees, both of which were very highly regarded.
And they're both very good movies too. They might not be your jam, but for what they are, they're great.
Yeah,
I've never seen either one of those. Which one would you say has the most like high octane fight scenes?
None of them.
Zero. Neither one.
Not even close. And that's why she's an interesting choice for this. And for the most part, I would say the action is pretty good. I guess my biggest problem is that it doesn't fall too hard on either way. So you could have like a movie that I'm sure we'll get to at some point, like Extraction, which is just balls to the walls action for 90 minutes long and doesn't really have a whole lot of heart to it. Or you could have a movie that's got a whole lot of heart and maybe the action's not quite there. The heart is almost there and the action is almost there, but they never really quite cross the line for me in either one of those categories.
You're right. You're right about that. But the thing that this movie does have going for it is that the world building is parsed out instead of having and I understand that instead of having the folders thrown onto a desk, like this is who your people are. Instead, we've got that gigantic carry wall from Homeland.
Yeah.
but I do like the way that they parse out the information, because throughout the entire thing, you're, at least my head watching it, I was like, okay, so how old are these people? And they give you everybody except for her, except for Andy. And I enjoy that part of it. I think that's a very cool concept.
And I don't know how you guys feel about it, because boy, you can absolutely take something that's okay for 2 hours and turn it into something that's okay for 8 hours. But I really like the butt kicking, and I really like some of the flashbacks. And I like to think if this had been stretched out into like 6 to 8 episodes instead of being a movie, then I could get some whole episodes of Andy kicking butt in the Middle Ages. Mm-hmm. And I like the heart to it, but I agree that they don't really lean all in for the heart to have the impact that it should when they show all the good that she's done. You don't have like you should. It almost had the potential to like break down and have a tear coming down your eye when she doesn't even know how much good she's done, and the fact that somebody's appreciated it.
And you both, I mean, I don't know what the answer is to this, but I'm hoping that you guys have a thought on it, and I do have my own thought on it, but I don't know if it's right. So when she's doing all of this butt kicking throughout the centuries, it is with a purpose. Chiwetel Ejiofor's character says, like she's doing these things and she's saving all these lives. Does she know that that's happening?
Well, she can't. She can't possibly know, because some of the things he points out is like she saved this person, then their grandson cured a disease.
And that's why I asked the question.
I think it's more like a compulsion, like we're understanding she's being driven by a higher power, whatever you might want that to be. So she doesn't even understand why she must save this person, but there's people that she saves, but she knows she can't save everyone. And then maybe this opens her eyes to just how important what she's doing really is, because you can tell she's getting disillusioned with it all as this movie's unfolding.
Yeah, and she seemed like it was like, well, I go around and I help where I feel like I'm supposed to, kind of thing, where it's like maybe I don't necessarily know why I'm doing it, on a instinctual level, I guess, but you just go ahead and do it because you believe that to be the right thing to do.
And what I really like about Andy is that she doesn't have any superhuman strength. She's just immortal. And she's had 6,000 years to get really good at fighting, And now that she's not immortal anymore, she's still going to keep fighting and using that 6,000 years of experience. And there's stakes now. Like, I think this is a movie where everything here is to make that awesome second movie. And I'm worried because we might not get that second movie.
Well,
I think that I think that there's a very high probability, though.
Yeah, and we'll get a little later in the show, we'll get into why I think that's almost, I don't want to say a given, but certainly likely. But I was really happy that because I knew nothing going in. I knew Charlize Theron was in this, and it was a movie that was on Netflix. That's it. And I was really, I was hoping that we wouldn't have the old, thing we talk about on this show a lot is like people that shouldn't necessarily be going and kicking all of the butt for any particular reason. But once you get that backstory, it's like, okay, that's acceptable. That's good. I understand that. But because You get 40-year-old Charlize Theron right now going and fighting up somebody. It doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. But if she's been around for a couple hundred years and learning how to fight and getting really good at that and not being able to die, yeah, she's going to be a heck of a lot better than your average so and so.
And if there is I almost said season 2 because this feels like a season, not a movie to me. But if there is a second movie, I probably wouldn't mind if they, maybe took a chance with a different director.
Possibly. I mean, who knows how Netflix works? I don't even know.
Well, she
if
was a
Netflix
gun
knows.
for hire. It's not her movie.
Yeah.
It's Skydance's movie.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like this is a person that we know is a competent director, and the price is right, and we're not getting somebody we're taking a chance on. We know we're going to get something quality. But I think now that you've done this one, maybe on the next one, I don't know if maybe the budget's a little higher, but I would love, and I can't remember her name. There was a not Bryce Dallas Howard, but the other female director they had on The Mandalorian, who I thought really managed.
Oh, yeah, the Asian lady.
Yeah, I think maybe she would be a good person for the second one because she seems to and of course, in a 30-minute episode, it's easier to balance your heart and action, maybe. But I would say maybe it's harder in a short episode. So I'd kind of like to see what she would do. Plus, there's tons of talented directors who I just don't know because I'm not in the business.
Deborah Chow, and she's top notch.
Yeah, I would like to see a smaller version of this. Like whatever the next thing is, I don't want it to be bigger. I want to put it under a microscope and see something like a bit of the world where we're not doing even more world building, but we're figuring out a thing or two here or there.
Well, I think this movie sets them up for that. I think
it does feel like that's what the next one would be, but I don't know.
The next movie is going to be PvP. Only now Andy can be killed, but Quinn can't. And how do you win that battle? Right. And plus you have to fight. It's also just a great superhero trope that your arch enemy was once your best friend, kind of thing too. That's straight up comic book stuff.
And you got your second movie where it happens again and again. That second movie where your main character does not have their power anymore.
But unlike most second movies, I think it works here because the magic power was part of what was dragging the consequences down.
I did kind of like that as an aspect to the story that you don't really see a whole bunch, which is, we've got these mystical powers and everything that were practically immortal, but eventually they wear off, and we're not 100% sure when or where or why or how, but eventually you kind of lose it. Now, I thought that was an interesting twist on something that you don't normally see.
And I like that part of it too. We're not learning how it happened. I do like that there is the rule of, she got depowered and now there's someone new who's shown up. I like that part
Very
of it
Highlander.
too.
Love
I
it.
like that it's not super stated. And these are just the rules here.
And it's all set up for a passing of the torch because, when your central character is a super expensive, high-profile actor like Charlize Theron, you need that. But it's got a perfectly set up for passing of the torch to Nile.
Young lady, you look like you could take over this role. You want to give that a shot? We're going to give it to you because she's expensive.
And I gotta tell you, my favorite scene in this movie is the teamwork makes the dream work sequence where they all realize that Charlize Theron doesn't have power anymore, and they still have to get through the building, and they're all covering her.
Yeah,
and there's something very fun in like this is the game now, is that we have to keep her alive, which means we've got to jump in front of bullets and all of this stuff. And I love that scene. I think it's terrific.
But there's also a couple of times where she goes through and then it's like all of a sudden she becomes point for like half a second. You're like, no, what are you doing? And I saw a couple movies like that this weekend.
Your mind's like, what are you doing?
No. She can get shot. You guys are cool. You get up front. Like, I know she's used to leading, but for heaven's sake, keep her back a little bit.
Plus, in the next movie, you get to start have the theme or the element that, Charlize Theron is telling the rest of her team, look, you can't count on me for much longer, so I've got to push you to be ready when I'm gone. So you kind of get that aspect to it, too.
I enjoyed the kind of wait for the signal bit. I thought that was a lot of fun. It's like, how is this not the signal? Everything's blowing up. Their bodies flying everywhere. How is this not the signal? You'll know when the signal comes. Just hold your horses.
And what do you guys remember about the flashback scene when Quinn is thrown into the sea in the Iron Maiden?
I just kept thinking of Iron Maiden music, and I'm just going, why aren't there supposed to be spikes or something in there? Seems like it should be more
But
harmful.
they do show her getting thrown into the water, right?
Yeah. They honestly, a little bit too easily they chuck that in there. I'm not going to lie to you. I watch it, and I'm just like, that would be heavier than that.
Because I read some of the behind the scenes, and there was a whole lot of arguing over that particular scene because the Netflix executive said, for what it would cost to film a scene on a boat throwing her into the ocean, like we could do a whole nother movie for just the cost of that scene. But I guess they stuck to
it was
the
definitely it was definitely what I've kind of referred to as a Citizen Kane shot, which was you go very, very low and kind of have a lot of sky going up there, and then we all will just assume what's backing down behind us.
Yeah.
And so, but it was a bit of that. There's like, here's the front of this ship. Here's them so very easily throwing off this big old iron casket, if you will.
Like it might have just been part of a ship in a swimming pool.
Yeah, like it's just like, oh, not even that. I don't even think there needed to be water. I could go back and watch again. I don't even think we saw word one of water. I think we all assumed water was there, and you throw a splash sound in there, you're like, hell, they were on the water.
Because there was some discussion with Greg Rucka over the screenwriting. They're like, listen, we can have this scene if you really want it, but you got to know we could make like a whole nother movie just for the cost of being out on a ship on the ocean.
We can get two Charlize Therons for that.
What if we dropped her in, get this, a desert? Huh?
What if we dropped her in a sound stage? Do you think people would buy that?
Something with a white cyclorama in it, so all we got to do is just throw on some lights. That's really what we're looking for here. Can you hook us up with that?
I can't remember the movie. I feel like it might have even been a movie we reviewed and made fun of it, but they actually had written into the story that they were going to attack the bad guy on a movie soundstage. Like they worked it into the story just to cut down the cost of the location.
I always like watching those old Next Generation episodes where they're on a planet and then, like, you can just tell it's just a psych that's been lit with like a red light, and you're like, there you go, that's your space. Shut up, you're on another planet now. It's the sky is red. Good luck.
Yeah. Another thing that Greg Rucka really held to his guns with that he didn't want to have changed at all was the relationship between Nico and Youssef.
Okay, so relationship I'm fine with. I had one problem with it, and that was the 14-year-old love speech in the van when they're hijacked. It was so corny. It's like if a straight couple, the only thing that could have made it worse is if a straight couple was saying it, because it was so corny and so stupid. You are the love of my life. A million sons cannot be of the. Oh, shut up! Shut up!
They've been together for 900 years. It's going to be pretty intense.
It's so corny. It's so bad.
Well, I mean, you know why they did all that is that they wanted to plant their flag and be like, look, just so there's no, just so that there's no misconception about where we stand. Here you go.
No kidding. Paint it with the broadest strokes that you can, brother.
Let's be honest with ourselves. That's going to happen for the next bunch of years until it's, until everyone's fine with it. It's just going to take a while.
Yeah.
And my recollection from the comic may be different because it's not that I read the comic, but somebody was telling me what was going on in the comic. But I thought they even had a scene where the two of them were like targeted by homophobes, and then they're the wrong couple to attack physically and try to gay bash. So they had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, these guys got a couple hundred years
here.
worth of experience in smashing some faces in. So you best to be careful on your. I do love how though when they finally get the back of the van open and they're all the guards are dead. They're like, could you just uncuff us, please? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I
love
think
that.
That's pretty similar to the scene in the comics where when the people that capture them find out that they love each other, that they start making fun of them, and then it goes south. Or the accosters.
Yeah, everything like the scene, the idea, all of it's fine. It's just the speech was just so corny. And I'm a guy who likes.
Remember, English is not his first language.
And I'm a guy who likes corny, stupid, sappy stuff.
Yeah, you more than anyone else on this show.
Exactly.
You are the saccharine, sappy guy.
And when I saw
agree
this,
with
it was
you.
just
It's very, very sugary and ridiculous.
So much.
I mean, Adam, you know this as well as I do. This is going to be happening for a bunch of years until everybody's cool with it.
Yeah,
and it also might come from like the person writing the words really wants to communicate something that maybe they don't know how to communicate, so they just have to do the best they can.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's true. Show us, don't tell us. I mean, that's always kind of the mantra.
Well, they're going to be telling us for a bunch of years, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Just like for perspective, if I were trying to write like a confession of love between any two people, it would probably come across as syrupy and corny, just because I wouldn't know how to write it.
No, I like to think of you more as a robot, Bruce. And when it comes to something like that, it's like, I like you like I love my favorite tree in my backyard.
My emotions are high, and they are high for you. Of good stuff, good feelings from me to you. Do you love me yet? That's how I try to
And I
approach
know that's not
relationships.
true, but that's what I like to think.
I would probably just have to write it something simple like, I don't know exactly what to say, but I'm glad you're here. And then that's all I could write.
He hands him a candy heart with a little message on it. I mean, is that good enough for you? Does that work?
I choose you.
Exactly.
I hate all of humanity, but out of them, I hate you the least.
Oh, that's so sweet.
The declaration of love.
He's a sweet boy.
Is that too much?
I love I like the running gag of the play dead. I like that. I thought that was a cool way.
That's pretty good.
I love how they trick this poor girl. She's like, they make her choose so fast, and she brings up a lot of fantastic points where she's like, okay, so check this out. I understand you've been around, you've been doing this hundreds of years. You've seen people come and live and die and all this stuff. I'm going to be honest with you. My family and everything is all still here. So what I could do is I could go live the rest of life with them. And when they're gone, I could come back and start doing some of this stuff. But my time in the regular people world, that's not over yet. And then she's like,
she
no.
even says like, eventually they'll figure out that I'm not getting older, but I probably take them 10 years.
I got a couple years to to live with this. And she's like, no, you're coming with us. I'm like, oh, boy.
Well, something one of the things that they handle very well in this movie is the stuff with Nile, where the Naya mortals here, they don't. It's like they needed a shot in the arm. They needed new blood because they even state that we have gotten really bad at this, at doing the thing that we're supposed to be doing, and she really does make them see the error of their ways. Like, hey, let's be better than what we're doing currently. And that's the difference between this and something like The Boys, where the new guy comes in, but it's almost like, hey, let's throw him to the side, and then just because the guy is so very, very clever, then he's slowly led into the crew.
Something I do like about The Boys, though, is that the new guy is totally not tough. Like here, everyone who becomes an immortal just happens to already be like a really in some capacity a soldier.
Yes.
Oh, if we have a
warrior.
spaz in the sequel, that would be amazing.
I would have loved it if like it was an accountant that they had all the dreams about, and they find out he's immortal because he gets in an elevator and like the elevator's not there and he falls down the shaft and gets up and walks out because he's also really clumsy. And then they got to figure out, like, you've got to become a machine, a killing machine, because we only have so many of us and we need you. Because I read a book series about an accountant who becomes an immortal, basically. And it's really funny because he has to learn how to be good at what he's doing instead of getting somebody that's already like awesome at what they do.
I'm telling you, I think Kevin Hart could fill that role. Because he's a physical enough guy to where he could pull off the stuff when he needs to, but he could also play stupid and bumbling really, really well, and it's small size also.
I'm leaning more towards what's his name, Middleditch or whatever.
Thomas Middleditch. That'd be Hey,
that is good.
That's not bad. I like that.
Yeah,
a little bit more in the nerdy department for sure. Because I think with Kevin Hart, we'd probably see it coming of like, oh, he's going to rip his shirt off and be muscly Kevin Hart, and we're going to go, oh yeah, I I
Yeah,
those are both good choices.
I'd
like to see Rick Moranis be an immortal.
Oh man,
oh man, a guy who became an immortal at age 70 because it'd work.
I did think it was really cool how they found each other. I thought that was a very unique and interesting thing of like, oh, we dreamed that they're there, and it's kind of this weird psychic connection, and that's when we know another one has kind of quote unquote been birthed, if you will.
Which makes me ask the question: now that she no longer has the nigh immortal power, does that mean that she doesn't dream with the rest of them anymore?
That's a question that would have to be answered in the next movie, I guess.
Because I don't know that we have that feeling after we kind of, figure out that she's not at that point.
It's not exactly the same, but I almost felt like it had a little bit of a Hancock vibe. Like maybe they're going to discover what causes you to stop being immortal is when there's a new immortal around you and you're giving off some kind of pheromone, because how that whole dynamic worked in Hancock.
Man, that movie was almost so great.
Yes, almost perfect, which makes it imperfect.
That's
perfect.
That's some good math. Here's the thing. Like overall, I didn't hate the movie, but I didn't love it as much as I wanted to. I wish it probably. I think the biggest thing, the heart was not quite there, but like I can forgive a little bit of that if the action was just so super top notch and it just shy. It wasn't bad, but just shy of something where I'm like. Watching all of Extraction, that's 90 minutes of like, holy crap, what? Whoa, wow, unreal. And this was just like, okay, that's a pretty cool fight. And the bar has been raised so high. I'm aware of that at least, but
I think unless you just have a problem with one of the actors, like you have a history where you're like, oh, I don't like that person. It's damn near impossible to hate this movie. Maybe you don't like it, but it's not something where you're like, that is the worst movie I've ever seen. No one is going to say that about this.
Oh, yeah, certainly not worst ever. That's a big one. I want to talk for like half a second here because Bruce, you mentioned I don't know if this thing's going to get a sequel and all that fun stuff. And I'm here to tell you, I was looking on Netflix Facebook page, and they, as you want to do because this is their new flick and everything, they've put out a little ad going, hey, check it out and everything. And everyone's responses are quite interesting. So I'll read a couple here for you.
Please.
What a ride! Ready for the next one. This cast was excellent. Just finished this one. So great. Really hope they get a sequel. It'll definitely be worth the wait if they can get the same leading cast. Charlize Theron and Kiki Lane are fantastic. They were tough and sexy. I hope there's a sequel to this. That's all that life could live and do good with. I'm not seeing many, if any, bad reviews here from people. It's so good that it led us with hopes of a second one. Here's hope for another one. And a lot of ladies commenting on this too. So
sure.
The ladies are very much responding to this, and especially when it comes
if I'm a lady, it's very rare I've seen a movie like this.
Because it's cool. It puts females in a position that they aren't normally in these types of action films.
You mean like a real life normal situation instead of the way that women are portrayed in movies?
Yeah, we ought to, but it's getting a lot of love. So I think there's a good chance for it to be a sequel. Does Charlize Theron die in the first 10 minutes of the sequel? I don't know, but
And it's hard for me to picture that they get Charlize for 3 of these, But for what it's worth, my father and his sister, my aunt, both really like this movie, so it's also resonating across multiple generations.
Nice.
And it's got to be almost impossible. I don't want to say impossible. I just don't know how Netflix handles their economic. Sort of their economic evaluation on how well something does.
No one understands.
It's almost impossible to lose money on a movie unless people say, "Oh, they're going to release that. I'm canceling my subscription." Like, I don't think it's causing people to do that.
It's so bizarre how all of it works because, I mean, if a lot of these Netflix movies, they don't release a whole lot of numbers, but when they kind of sort of do, or at least what they tell us the numbers are, a lot of the movies that they would release via Netflix here, if they were released out in public and all of those people bought a ticket, you'd have some wild and crazy high box office numbers. So let's say you cut that in half because maybe half of them don't want to leave the house. There's still very impressive numbers. How they'll continue on this basis and with such a plethora of money, because, I mean, let's say everyone on planet Earth bought this thing, you're only going to have a finite amount of money. And so I don't know how any of this works. Maybe it's all just magic.
And also, like with Netflix, if they produce their own movie, then they have content on their platform in perpetuity. Whereas you license a movie, you got a finite amount of time and then it's gone.
Well, that was the smartest thing that Netflix has done as a company as a whole, was eventually they did realize, as when streaming came out, hey, these contracts can go away, but if we produce our own stuff, that stays with us all the time. And Netflix has become more of an HBO type of program as opposed to just a place that you go to get, all of your Hollywood movies.
Yeah.
You still have that, but they're certainly leaning more towards the direction of, we want to make our own stable of stuff so we can make as much money off of what we're doing as opposed to what someone else is doing.
And they must be satisfied with the results they're getting from the indie comics that they're developing, because I don't see any sign of them slowing down.
No, gosh, I don't know what they're spending per year on movies and television that they're doing strictly for Netflix, but it's wild and crazy. I'd put it's probably up there with, most major studios, to be honest with you.
And they're getting like indie properties that, big time studios aren't going to want to risk making it into a tentpole, but it's still got something there. Like if Kingsman were getting made into a movie now, I feel absolutely certain it would go straight to Netflix.
Oh, me too, man.
Yeah.
I think this is exactly where you would land it.
Well, before we get to our final reviews here and everything, we do have to ask ourselves one very important question, and it is how this Netflix film relates back one-to-one with Sylvester Stallone.
Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. If you're making a movie and that movie has guns in it, you're going to need an armory, which is the guy who has the guns. And the guy who had the guns on the old guard is Sam Dormer. I don't know Sam Dormer. I've never been in the room with Sam Dormer. So it's possible that everything I'm about to say in no way applies to him. And if that's the case, he'll have a good laugh and it won't ever cross his mind to sue me for defamation of character. But in my experience, you have two types of armories. You either have the guy who is currently or used to be a police officer, and that's the guy you want because he's used to dealing with a bunch of people who think they know everything about guns and actually know nothing. That guy is all business, and every step of the way is tutorials and presentations, and he doesn't ever, not once, not ever joke around the moment that a live gun is on set. But then you've got the other guy.
Oh, boy.
And you really, really need to be careful around that guy. He was never a cop because even though he has a military background, for some reason, he just couldn't seem to pass the psych test to get into the police academy. And it's not his fault that under the question, do you have a criminal past? His answer was yes, because we live in a surveillance state. He's just being honest. And he lives on a compound in the middle of nowhere. And he and his second wife, who was young enough to be his daughter, live there. And they have 17 guard dogs because he doesn't want anyone messing with his stuff, even though 90% of his stuff is old bombed out school buses. And he takes his daughter wife with him everywhere, and she never wears shoes for some reason, even when you're on location and somewhere that's really nice. And he's always cracking jokes and telling stories that make everyone else in the story look stupid. And he's the only one who laughs at the end. And he needs to let you know that he's the biggest badass on set, even though he hasn't been physically active ever since he got cheap shotted by that stunt coordinator who thinks he's better than everybody on that superhero movie he worked on a few years ago. You know which one, the big one. And he thinks that unions are a scam, even though he's in one. And when no one's looking, he might throw a hard R at you. And everyone on set is real nice, except for that one woman who shot her mouth off at him when he was just trying to compliment her. And he has all the guns. But as I said before, I'm sure Sam Dormer isn't like that at all. And if I'm bringing up his name, then you've probably guessed by now that he also worked with Sylvester Stallone. And boy, did he. Way back in 2019. Way back in 2019 on a movie called Rambo Last Blood.
Yeah.
He was the armory on that movie as well. A movie where we finally learned that Rambo's dad's name was Revis Rambo. And even though this movie is called Rambo Last Blood, while this movie was at Cannes, yes, that Cannes, Stallone said that if it was wildly successful, he'd totally do another one. And there you have it, HMPers and dingalingers. This week's Stallone connection is Sam Dormer. I'm Sean Kovacs, and even though I wasn't born rich, it just seems that way because I'm so entitled. Thank you, Kovacsers. Thank you.
Last Blood was good. I mean, like, it was short,
it's a good movie.
And it was super, but golly bum, it is so awesomely violent, and like, oh man, I love it.
It's more like First Blood than any other Rambo movie.
Yeah.
I like this theoretical person you described that can spend 20 minutes trying to convince you that a guild is different than a union.
Yes, exactly. It is. I'm not even going to get it.
We're a collective bargaining association. We're not a union.
In our guild, we wear cloaks. Is that weird? Well, at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. No letters or grades or anything like that. Do you want to know what that Robin rating system consists of? Why don't you head on over to our Reddit subreddit, everybody, r/Hero Movie Podcast. There you can join up, talk with us, and check out that Robin rating. Why don't you? Bruce, where does the old guard fall on the Robin rating system for you?
Well, like I said, with Netflix and Netflix movies, I feel like they've got a narrow corridor that they operate in. You know, it's not going to be bad. It's going to be competent. It's going to be good. But I also feel like there's a ceiling to how good it can be. And this seems to hold true to my theory there. And that narrow corridor puts it right in the Damian Wayne range. So I'm going to put it right in the middle there.
Very good. Sean, what do you got?
Yeah, it's a high Damian Wayne. It's closer. It's closer to a Tim Drake than anything else, but it is a Damian Wayne for me.
For me, I'm gonna go. It's a high Stephanie Brown. I don't hate this movie, but I certainly don't love it. And I have been over the years huge fan of Charlize Theron. It's wearing on me. I don't know what she's doing now, but like, something about her last couple of roles and stuff of a wide variety of genres, you know, from that flick that she was in with Seth Rogen about her being the president or whatever. And then I don't know, something about what she's doing in this last little leg of her career has just really perplexed me, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know how I would quote unquote fix it, if you will. But
I think she's doing whatever she wants. She's reached that point in her career.
Probably so. I mean, Oscar winner at this point, but when's the last time you really saw her nominated for any like big awards or anything like that? Maybe, I don't know. It's just a thought. But it's okay. I think if this is a type of if you like this genre of stuff, you'll probably enjoy it. But it was just okay for me. And like Sean said, I thought that was a great thing is the phone test. And for me, I was looking at my phone a lot more than I wish I would have.
Oh, you know what that means, Bruce? That means in about 2 weeks, Adam's going to think of a term called the phone test.
Let me mute you right now so we don't have that on record. I can edit this thing if I want.
Sometimes the phone test says as much about the individual as it does the movie. I'll leave that there.
You're not
Also
wrong.
true.
That's both are equally true at the same time. That is it, everybody. I don't think we talked about what we're doing next week. Whose choice is it? I don't remember. Is it?
I think if we're going to be fair, it should still be your choice, Adam.
It should technically still be mine because
because this was a new release. This wasn't
a new
really
release.
Okay, well, if it's mine, we'll do what we talked about on the Dinger Zone last week because I'm sure people were going like, yes, I want to hear that, and that's probably not what they were saying. But shut up. We're covering Richie Rich next week. That's right, Little Macaulay Culkin back in the late '90s when he was one of the richest kids in the world, and his parents were absolutely awful, and that kind of stuff.
And he made it out the other side. Good
yeah,
for
he
him.
did. He seems to be very happy right now doing, not a lot of stuff, but enough stuff to where you're just like, hey, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. And you got to want for that, especially coming from a child star. You could end up in the gutter, for heaven's sake. So we'll be covering that next week. That's Richie Rich. That's also currently available on Netflix. Hey, Netflix, hit us up for a sponsorship. That is it, everybody. Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet this week?
You can always check out Chubby Wizard. There's always something going on over there. I think last time we talked a little bit about a Matt Fraction comic called Adventure Man, among other things. And go to Comixology. Check out Utterly Amazing Stories by Jonathan Schnapp. Kind of a fun little lighthearted comic romp.
Very cool. Sean, is there some big event that's going on in television land this week that people should know about?
Why, yes, it is the 2-hour finale of the television show Snowpiercer from TNT. And we have a show called Snowpiercer 30 Questions, where each week we ask 30 questions of the episode we just saw of that show.
It's a heck of a fun time over there, so check out Snowpiercer 30 Questions wherever you find podcasts. That'll do it for this week, everybody. Join us next week when we're talking some Richie Rich action. For Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Porters. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
That was sexy.
And I never had someone to come on. Oh, nah, I'm so used to shit. Love only left me alone, but I'm at one with the silence. I found peace in your vibes. Can't show me there's no point in trying. I'm at one, and I've been quiet for too long. I found peace in your vibes. Can't show me there's no point in trying. I'm at one, and I've been silent for too long. I've been quiet for too long. I've been quiet for too long. I found peace in your vibes. Can't show me there's no point in trying. I'm at one, and I've been quiet for too long. I'm in need of a savior, but I'm not asking for favors. My whole life I feel like a burden. I think too much and I hate it. I'm so used to being in the wrong. I'm tired of caring. Loving never gave me a home. So I sit here in the silence. I found peace in your vibes. Can't show me there's no point in trying. I'm at one, and I've been quiet for too long. I found peace in your vibes. Can't show me there's no point in trying. I'm at one, and I've been silent for too long. Quiet for too long.